helicopter scenes were shot over 4 weekends over LA with hundreds of PAs locking up the streets. This was a huge deal, but without the biggest budget. So I'm amazed how far the money got stretched is what I'm saying to make 100 days on this movie.
Yeah. I was reading that, so like we're going to take another step back talking about the locking again. So what led to this is that they put a longer version of this movie out, and there was really bad audience testing, like horrible, absolutely horrible. And then I read that Danny Elfman, who was very excited about this movie and he did the score, felt so bad that he was going to try to give his money back to Sam Raimi so they could use that to like keep working on the film.
I became a lifelong Danny Elfman fan after reading what he had to say in that oral history.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Such a cool dude.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw Evil Dead. I was like, I got to work with him.
Yeah.
And he was fighting for Raimi, which is why the composer is fighting for Sam Raimi. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so before we jump into maybe like talking about the movie, because we're still nerding out about all the history of this, do you want to talk about the Bruce Campbell connection?
Oh gosh, with all the yelling, and he was going through a divorce and needed money.
Yes, it's so good. I didn't know this until I read the oral history.
Yeah, it was so funny, and I think he talks about it in his books too. If Chins Could Kill, I love his books, but yeah, just him. I just love. He was going through a divorce. He needed money, and so a lot of the yells in this movie are his, and he appears at the very end. And they wanted him for the sequel, but they never ended up shooting it. But
they wanted him for this film. They wanted him to play Darkman, but
they did.
But he was too fresh. They didn't think he could handle it.
Man, Liam Neeson was good. I think Liam Neeson nailed it.
Yeah. And
man, just watching him go bananas in those scenes. But yeah, I just love when you watch it and you hear a lot of the screams. That's Bruce Campbell. It's just, man, they just brought him in because he needed money, and so he hung out with Sam Raimi in the editing room and yelled a lot.
help with the sound.
Yeah.
It's a very not Bruce Campbell thing to do, but it's also a Bruce Campbell thing to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't quite there yet. He wasn't. He had the Evil Dead movies under his belt, but he hadn't jumped onto Briscoe County yet. I mean, he kept trying out for movies and almost getting them. Phantom, Congo. I love that they just gave him a spare role in Congo because they didn't give him the other thing.
That's how he grew his career, basically. He's like a bit player, and then everyone's like, we like the chin.
You know his credit in this movie is Final Shemp?
Yeah, I saw that, and I laughed really hard.
Oh, it makes me happy.
It's a reference to Three Stooges.
Yep. And
I don't know much more than that.
Yeah, they always call it Shemps in these movies. Once you read all their books and listen to their commentaries, they have a great language. So like talking about mush and Shemps and gags. Oh man, I love hearing these because these guys, like Sam Raimi and his crew, they were making movies in Detroit from early on, and I think they just like Evil Dead was sheer ingenuity. Evil Dead 2 was so, like inventive and fun. So these guys just I don't know. I know we're talking about Darkman, but why do you think Campbell's career never exploded? Do you think it's his acting ability? What do you think it is?
No, I think he's actually a good actor. It's just that he leans into camp really hard. I mean, that's hard to explain because, like, you and I know who he is. I think a lot of people know who he is. He definitely had a pretty solid career, but he was never, like, A-lister status. He was always, like, B-. That's a great question. I do not know. I mean, it probably has something to do with him being in Army of Darkness, which didn't do very well in the theater.
Great point. That was a big budget lead, and he's very good. But that movie's that's one of my favorite movies, but it's very abrasive.
I love that movie. Yeah,
and his character, when he's just looking at women and he goes, blow. First you want to kill me. No, you want to kiss me. He's just such a, but the performance is great. But the wavelength, maybe. Do you think his wavelength was very niche? And the people who connect with Bruce Campbell connect with Bruce Campbell. I just think the majority of the mainstream probably didn't.
Yeah. He's into physical gags in horror movies, right? That is a very strange mix of stuff to put together. Like what other things he did? Like Maniac Cop.
Bubba Hotep.
I love Bubba Hotep, but it's like that camp. He's very, very campy. And when's the last time a purposely campy movie made $1 billion. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's yeah. And you know what's funny too? I don't know. He wrote a book called Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way, and he got drafted. He got cast in a Mike Nichols film with Renee Zellweger and Richard Gere, and he turned it into a B movie. And then it never ended up getting completed, and everyone just went their own separate ways. Like, and then he found a bootleg of it, and I think in Japan years later. That's what his book is about. How he wrecked the Mike Nichols movie because he added too much camp and B movie sensibility into it.
But if that's what he loves, it's what he loves. It's got him this far. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. But have you listened to our Icebreaker episode?
I have not. I don't know what Icebreaker is.
So Adam Hodgins and I, who you've done the drafts with, we talked about a movie called Icebreaker starring Sean Astin battling Bruce Campbell at a lodge. It's basically Die Hard, but Bruce Campbell is Hans Gruber and Sean Astin is John McClane.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this when they're like camping?
No, they're at a lodge.
Okay.
And it's there's mountain burgers and there's a bald Bruce Campbell. And there's Sean Astin getting picked up by a henchman during a kitchen fight and looking like he got slammed on the ground with fear in his face. But I digress. We're getting away from Darkman here.
No, all right, one more sidebar. I do love after Die Hard, there was all those movies like this one you just talked about, but also Sudden Death. Like, okay, one man is trapped alone in a location and has to save the day. And they're like trying to figure out all the various locations they can do.
And I love that it became, what's the best Die Hard ripoff? Like, this is the best of the ripoffs.
Yeah, it's Speed.
Yeah. Speed is great. I think Sudden Death is underappreciated. Great kitchen fight, and there's a chicken bone death that's unbelievable.
Do you want to actually get into this film? You want to? We were like, here's a lead up to Darkman, which we both love. But let's actually talk about the movie.
Yeah, I guess it all kicks off with Frances McDormand's character. Annie, she gets a hold of this thing she shouldn't have. What's the name of the papers again? She gets a hold of
bribery to the zoning commission.
Yeah, so they find paper
to build a city.
Yeah, so he wants to build this future city. Frances McDormand accidentally gets some papers. Liam Neeson sees it. The wonderful villain Robert Durant, played by Larry Drake, who crushes it, comes into Liam Neeson's office. Or I'm sorry, Dr. Peyton Westlake. It feels weird calling Liam Neeson Peyton. But
it's not a great superhero name. Like, superhero names typically have like a double cadence. It'd be like
Bruce Wayne, right? Or
well, he's not. I wouldn't even say he's a great one. Like Clark Kent, the double the double sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like Peyton. What's the name with the P? I can't even think of.
Peyton Prop.
Or William Westlake. Like, that's what it would be. Like Wally West is the Flash. You do a lot of these superhero names have like a double sound. Peter Parker.
Wade Wilson.
Exactly. It's interesting that actually Bruce Wayne doesn't have that one, but he has the Caped Crusader, so that kind of counts.
Yeah, so you have Peyton, but Peyton gets killed not killed, but they come destroy his lab. But also Peyton is working on this technology that can recreate human skin for people's faces, but it only lasts for 99 minutes. His lab blows up. He somehow survives. These doctors get a hold of him and make him a superhero, but since he can't feel pain anymore, his psyche draws from his emotions, which makes him unpredictable, violent, and super strong.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's him getting revenge. What?
And also lachrymose. Like he just, his emotions are all over this place. Like, he could be sad, he could be angry, he can start laughing. He's just unstable.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So during the really kind of grotesque and absurd carnival scene where he wants to win Julie, not Annie, I'm sorry, Julie, an elephant, a stuffed elephant, and he isn't given it. Where did he get his wonderful coral shirt and green sweater?
That's a great question, because throughout this whole movie, he had access to more money than he should have.
Yeah, and full technology.
Yeah.
And cameras.
He's a smart guy. I imagine that he stole a bunch of money from the henchman that he killed near the beginning.
Oh, you're right, he did.
Yeah,
I don't
where's
know,
the money? But I think he.
Oh yeah, because he goes to his place. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Oh man, you just nailed it.
The real question there is though, like, why didn't he just wear clean clothing for the whole time? Because he got back into disgusting homeless man clothing that he found in a dumpster after escaping the hospital, and he could have just worn clean clothing.
Do you think a duality has happened where he's starting to become Darkman and he's everyone and no one, and so he'll move into it, but he does have his phantom moments. He's going a little crazy, and so he embraces the darkness to dress like that?
Maybe. I think that's a good visual indicator. He's trying to be Peyton, but he's not Peyton. He is Darkman. Yeah, I think that could be a good explanation. I mean, I would still upgrade my wardrobe to get cleaner overcoat and a nicer hat, but that's me.
Those are gross clothes to be wearing on top of burns.
Exactly. I was thinking about that too. I'm glad you brought it up. I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to get an infection.
And it's just so he blows up. He actually escapes the lab. It's pretty interesting that they.
I mean, escapes by being blown out a window and landing in disgusting tributary water.
Yeah, he's in gross tributary water, and then they put him on this thing where they're spinning him. You get a John Landis cameo. You learn about his new super abilities, and then he just goes on a brutal mission to murder people. When he kills Ted Raimi as Ricky, I love though when Ricky shoots Yakito, the assistant, and then later on when they're walking out, Durant just goes, "You're doing a great job, Ricky. That was a great shot." And he puts his arm on him.
Is that's Sam Raimi's younger brother? I believe.
Yeah, and and I know this is random, but he also appears in the Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games movies, where in this movie there's a lot of Liam Neeson looking into what do you call it? The petri dish with the magnifying glass? What is a microscope? But then Ted Raimi does a lot of that in the Patriot Game Clear and Present Danger movies. That's a really random pull. But yeah,
it's just as random as me saying that guy was in Sequest, and I love Sequest. AKA reverse Star Trek.
Yeah, Underwater with Roy Scheider.
For only the first season.
That was brilliant casting though for him, I guess. Let's put him back in the water. But now it's as this movie moves along, for me, we've talked about other movies sort of being like a fever dream almost, where specifically I would say Wolfman.
Oh yeah.
This is also random, but I was talking with Adam Hodgins. He's on this podcast a lot, and you've worked with him. But he said that when I first met him in 2011, I was raving about the Wolfman during a Comic-Con in Toronto. So I've long been a fan of that movie. But this one, I think because of the bonkers editing and the wacky moments, this movie does play like a blur. It doesn't. Does it really linger in your memory, David, when you think about it later on, or does the kind of tone and mood?
The tone and mood in a couple scenes really, really stand out, but you're right. The whole film is off balance, and I think that's a purposeful choice to get into the psyche of Darkman. And so you were talking about earlier how the camera never stops moving. I felt that was made to heighten your connection with Darkman. Because he's all over the place. He's angry, he's sad, he's depressed, he's vengeful. It does. It pinballs. It pinballs all over the place, and usually I wouldn't say that's a benefit to a movie, but it 100% works here. In terms of the scenes that I absolutely always remember, I would probably never take this scene out of my brain, is Liam Neeson wearing a funnel, dancing
for a cat.
For a cat. Yeah, that is probably a scene the studio wanted to cut, and I am so happy they put it back in.
Well, and Bill Pope on the commentary was just saying that, man, he said that Sam just put Liam through the ringer. And also, Liam wanted to be called Darkman on set in the beginning. So he's like, just call me Darkman so I can stay in character. So in between every shot, Sam Raimi would be like, "Hey, Darkman, you want to go get some coffee? Hey, Darkman, I'm going to Crafty. You want some Crafty? Hey, Darkman, we're going to dinner. You want to go get some dinner? Hey, Darkman." And then a couple days later, Liam Neeson just went, "Hey, guys, please stop calling me Darkman." So Sam busted his chops and got him to stop wanting to be called Darkman because Sam was just messing with him so much.
That sounds like something Sam Raimi would do.
Yeah, and you know what else is funny?
With someone endlessly.
Bill Pope was saying that on these sets, Bill's like, hey, maybe we should do this Dutch angle over